We are joined by attorney Jeff O'Brien for our weekly 3 and Out. 3 stories, usually sports stories. They are today. And we just start knocking them down. So let's get going. The Wolves, they're not making any moves that are involving other teams or trades, not yet anyway, but they are re-signing some key players.
Yeah, they've signed 2 of their 3 key free agents, and like the third one's wasn't going to be coming back. But they got Reid re-signed. I think it was announced on Saturday or Friday. No, Friday. And then yesterday they announced that they had a deal with Julius Randle. So now we've got Reid and Randle are coming back. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he has not yet been signed, and what I'm hearing there's a lot of interest in him from other teams, Bob. So I don't know that. I think he's going to be. There was talk of they couldn't sign all 3, and it sounds like he's the odd man out.
Well, he could wind up go play with his cousin in Oklahoma City.
That's one of the potential landing places.
Well, yeah. I think that would be terrific if he had a chance to do that. Obviously, his cousin would still remain the star of that team, but he won't have to worry about being guarded by him then.
Yeah,
because he did a decent job against them, so that's not that wasn't too shabby. Actually, it could be a great move. Now, aren't these guys up against the cap where they're paying a luxury tax, or do they not care?
I forget. They're like in a certain tier of the luxury tax right now. I forget how much they have to pay, but yeah, they're over the cap and paying luxury taxes. I don't think they're at the top tier, but they're like the middle. They're like the second tier down.
Well. Good luck to them with all that. All right.
Yeah, I don't know how they, if you look at, they had looking at their conference and how the other teams have improved, with Houston and the Durant trade and Oklahoma winning. I don't yet see how the Wolves, have moved past either of those teams, but, maybe they all, get a little better this year and do better.
The West it's a beast conference. Dallas got better with Cooper Flag. I mean, there's a lot of teams that are going to get a lot better and or have gotten a lot better, and you still can't. As old as he is, can you count out the Lakers and LeBron? I don't know.
Probably not.
know. And frankly, Golden State, I think they would have wound up beating the Wolves had Steph Curry not suffered the injury in Game 1.
I think you're right. Yeah, it's a very talented conference, no question. So they're going to have another tough run this next year. So.
All right, now item 2. This is incredible. What happened in the Dominican Republic?
Yeah, we had talked about this a long time ago when it first broke. The story of Wander Franco, who was the top prospect in Tampa Bay, top prospect in all of baseball at one point, and was he was charged with I think he was having a relationship with a 14-year-old.
But it's how the thing was set up. The woman was basically prostituting her kid.
Yeah,
the mother.
Yeah, and then she was, looking for money from him, the mom, and he now gets convicted and gets a 2-year suspended sentence. And it sounds like the mother's probably going to get more.
No, she's going to jail for like 10 years.
Yeah.
I don't understand how these people think down there. And this is a 3-judge panel, and it was a woman who basically set down the verdict. I don't understand how the people can allow this to happen, but it does. And Jeff, when I saw this story, reminded me of the first girlfriend I had in high school. She had a 12-year-old sister who was dating a guy who this is what's unbelievable. They told the parents that he was only 18. He was like 21, and she was 12. What is wrong with these people?
Yeah.
And I didn't grow up in in hillbilly land. This was in New Jersey.
Right. Well, the interesting thing here, Bob, will be what happens with him and Major League Baseball, because already see you got Trevor Bauer pitching over in Japan because no team will touch him, even though he was exonerated. But here you've got him convicted, and yes, he's a phenomenal talent, but is there any team that's going to take a chance on him?
He's going to have to play in the Dominican, where maybe that's more acceptable. That sort of thing. Oh, they did. I mean, he did get tried and convicted, but a suspended sentence. That's an absolute outrage. It's a travesty of justice, as they say. This one completely baffles me of why, how they can let something like this happen.
Yeah, agreed.
And then, speaking of letting something like this happen, I don't think there was any doubt. I mean, Dave Parker, his numbers made him eligible for the Hall of Fame, the Baseball Hall of Fame. He belonged, and he finally gets elected. And then, a month short of his induction, he dies.
Yep. Because he's been battling Parkinson's. They finally inducted him. So he was, he's going to be inducted. And on just over the weekend, it was announced that he passed away. You're right, a month shy of his induction ceremony. Very sad. Phenomenal player. His nickname was the Cobra, and there's a lot of great photos of him out there, and the famous throw from right field in the All-Star game where he guns a guy down at home plate from a throw in right field. And of course you've got the time, I think he had broken his nose or something, and he was wearing like a hockey goalie mask on the field. So he was, I think he played for, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. I remember he was with Oakland during the Bash Brothers period for a
couple of years there, and he was in Milwaukee for a year, and then California, and then with Toronto. He had to wound up having a 19-year career, and when you look at his numbers, they were good, but they weren't like mind-blowing. Although, I mean, the guy had less than 300 hits from 3,000, but 300. I thought he had more home runs than 339. 1493 for RBI, and his career batting average was not too shabby with a 290.
Yeah, I remember watching him when I was a kid. And, I mean, he was always seemed to me to be one of the dominant players. So
he was for a period. I mean, he led the National League in hitting in 77 and 78 with back-to-back 338 and 334 averages. So nothing shabby about that.
Part of the Pirates World Series team. Trying to think, was he on one of the World Series teams in Toronto? Was he there for that?
91. No, he wouldn't have been, because it was the next year that they made the run, and he was only. I mean, he was with them for 13 games. He was with California in 91. Actually, he was with two teams, 90 in California, the Angels, and Toronto for 119 games with the Angels. That's the problem with a lot of these guys when it comes toward the end of their career. They start bouncing around. He spent more than years in Cincinnati than I imagined. He had 4 years in Cincy. I didn't realize that it was that long.
Well, if I recall right, I think I saw some footage this weekend. He was an All-Star in '85, the year that the All-Star game was at the Metrodome. So he actually was one of the guys playing at the All-Star game was at the Metrodome.
Oh, well, the other thing about not him, but guys who belong in the Hall of Fame. Now, I've said for years that I didn't have a problem with Jim Marshall being in the Hall of Fame. I did have more of a problem with Bud Grant pushing him at the exclusion of others. And I do believe that Chuck belongs in the Hall of Fame ahead of Jim Marshall. And but Marshall, I mean, it's watch the guy wind up making the Hall of Fame now that he's finally gone. That happens way too often, and it shouldn't.
Yeah. Well, they did that with Ken Stabler. Steve McMichael got in on his deathbed.
The McMichael one, I don't. I mean, it's not. I don't want to disparage the dead or because of the time he was near death, but that one I really didn't get. Because Hampton was the star of that. He was the better of the two interior linemen, and I just didn't think. I mean, I didn't think he was anywhere near what Hampton was, and frankly, anywhere near some guys who are not in, like maybe Marshall.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm wrong about that one. It's,
we're just as back shifting back to baseball. I think it was just fortunate that we got Tony Oliva in while he was still alive to enjoy it here. I think the Twins are pretty, and I think the Twins are pretty much caught up in terms of who would qualify for the Hall of Fame after Oliva and Jim Cotlin, and of course then Joe Mauer.
And by the way, you made it sound like that Tony Oliva's dead. He isn't.
No, he's not. No. Yeah, no. When I say he is alive to enjoy it.
Yes, he's still around to enjoy it.
Yeah, sorry if I didn't mean to convey that.
He's 86. No. I didn't realize. I mean, I got to know him shortly after I moved here in '84. Great guy, and what a player he was.
Yep.
He had some incredible. He was every year he was leading or right near 3-time American League batting champ. I actually thought it was more than that when they had him and Carew and Lyman Bostock, all three of them be battling for the batting title for a while. Yeah, he was a phenomenal player for them, for the Twins when he was healthy, and then the knees went, and that was pretty much the end of that. All right. Now I just got to. I'm gonna. Those are your three, but I'm gonna just ask you, what do you right now? They're 12.5 back after losing. They won Friday, lose 2 or 3, got 13 strikeouts against them in 7 innings. Where do you see the Twins finishing? I mean, are they going to stay under 500? Or do you think they'll get above 500 the rest of the year? They're 4 games under right now.
I think they might be able to stay get back above 500. I think they're probably good for a third place finish in their division. We'll see. There's some chatter right now. There was a lot of talk a few weeks ago about them being, buyers at the trade deadline.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
And now there's more chatter about them
being
sellers. And one name I've heard thrown out there is Correa.
Yeah, but will people want him because he does get hurt a bit?
Yeah, so it's funny. He got hurt after he started coming. He came to the Twins and suddenly started getting hurt. What goes on with that team with their medical issues? They seem to always be hurt.
Well, Buxton's the Iron Man now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
All right, Jeff O'Brien, thanks so much. Take a quick break. The BS Show will be right back.